Welcome to Legacy Cast, your source for hearing from top influencers, industry experts, and successful business owners who are telling their unique story about life, values, goals, business strategies, and the various causes they are so passionate about. Future generations will come to be impacted by what is happening today, whether positive or negative, and our mission is to focus on what is going to affect change for the better. Hosted each weekday by James Snow, a former U.S. Army combat medic, now founder and principal advisor of James Advisors Group, a full-service financial planning firm in North Texas. This is Legacy Cast. Welcome, Legacy Cast listeners. This is your host, James Snow, coming to you from North Texas. And we have this is kind of a special Labor Day episode that I'm throwing in here. I have a guest with me today, Markian Sich. He's active duty Marine Corps captain and does run also a business, which is very interesting to me as well as to many of our listeners, because we have a contingency of veteran and military people that do listen. And he has a business, active duty passive income. So that's certainly something that a lot of you guys that are still serving, maybe give you some insights on what you can do. Those of you that have already transitioned out of the military, it gives you some opportunities that you can look at as far as building your legacy through the real estate direction, because obviously real estate is not going anywhere. So it's certainly something you can look into. But without further ado, I'd like to officially welcome Mark into the program. Welcome to the program, bud.
Hey, thanks. How's it going, guys? I appreciate you bringing me on. This is awesome. I always love talking to people about kind of what I got myself into while in the military, because it is incredibly it affects everybody, not only people that are currently in the military, but like you said, also veterans, because real estate isn't going anywhere, and it's an incredibly for me because. For me, it was almost like an epiphany moment when I realized, holy cow, I don't only have to rely on the functions and the BRS and the TSP and all these various financial benefits of being in the military. I don't have to only rely on them. I can actually create this massive amount of generational legacy wealth while in the military. And the reason why we kind of had the pun on words in our company's name, active duty passive income, is because if an active duty guy can do it, then a reservist, veteran, retired, spouse, anybody else can do it. So, the whole idea is that we're always busy, but I want to show that it is possible that while you're active duty to already start preparing a little bit by buying pieces of America and that are producing you cash flow every single month. Because right now, when new members are coming in our service, they're not going to have the ability to stay in for 20 years and then have cash flow for the rest of their life. That's not a thing anymore. After this year, and so outside the box a little bit if we want to really, really prepare ourselves well. So that's kind of what we're all about.
Sure, and I'm glad, Markian, that you mentioned like with the blended retirement system and the TSP, because people really need to understand when it comes to building that security for your family, that you have the multi-legged stool, as I call it, that you need to have at least 3 legs, if not 4 legs of income that are going on. And so you have your standard retirement type things. Ultimately, in a perfect world, you'd have Social Security, but I don't even know if that's going to be there, quite honestly. It looks like that's going to be bankrupt probably in 15 years. So by the time that we are needing it may or may not be there. And so we have to come up with other ways of funding that, because only 3% of businesses are even offering pension funds anymore, which was one of those things. Military obviously have that benefit, but for our civilian listeners, you may or may not even have a pension to work from. And so there really is a lot that you need to do on your own, under your own steam, to be able to make up for those shortcomings. Because if you don't have it, then when you decide to retire, that quality of life and your lifestyle that you're accustomed to is not going to be there. And so, I don't want to be, too hard about that, but, let's be serious. And that's really the reality of it. Excuse me.
Yeah.
But,
and when you're talking about lifestyle, it's probably one of the biggest epiphany moments I had when I started learning about real estate. And by the way, guys, if you're like, hey, yeah, I'm in the military, I'm a veteran, all this real estate stuff, you guys are about to jump into a bunch of techno jargon that you don't really maybe understand or whatever. I apologize, my computer almost froze on me there. There's nothing too technical about what I'm going to say, and what I'm going to talk about is I'm going to show you guys certain ways of actually feeling a change in your lifestyle now instead of maybe when you're 65. You know what I mean? Like that's why I started going down the real estate route, is because it is not a get rich quick scheme, but it is a path very well followed, and you can start doing things now that will actually, you'll see results almost immediately, little by little, and it's amazing, and that's what got me hooked. So what I'm talking about is the traditional. Okay, so first of all, let's go back to like the 20-year, the high through retirement. Why is that so awesome? Because at the age of, if you joined, like when I did, when I was 22 when I got out of the Naval Academy. Boom, my 20-year ticker started. So that means at 42, if I get out then, which that won't happen because I already switched to the BRS. But if I get out at 42 with the 20-year retirement, I have cash flow for the rest of my life. Right at that moment, if I get out. And that's amazing because you didn't have to, I wouldn't have had to put anything in for that. So real estate, it's not like stocks. It's not like you put in, let's say $100,000 into Apple and what you're making is interest, right? And that's it. Like that is what you're getting taxed on that interest, and you're making interest, but you're not really touching it because you want it to keep growing. So you keep it there, and it's just, you're hoping like when you're 65 or 59 and a half, if it's in a Roth IRA, whatever, that you'll be able to pull it out and it's going to be great. Mm-hmm. And everybody tells you to diversify, and then you start looking into mutual funds, and then you don't even realize that those have huge fees on them hidden, and all of a sudden, anyways, my thing with real estate is that you can actually, I'm not even counting that interest I'm making, which in real estate, we call it appreciation. I'm looking at what it's giving me every single month. So that's crazy to me, because there's so many ways that real estate makes you money. It actually gets you cash flow every single month if you do it right. So if you buy a property in the Midwest, like we're big fans of Tennessee, Alabama, Florida, so Wisconsin, Kansas, more Midwest there, Ohio, like Indiana, where rent prices are so much higher than all of your expenses on your mortgage. So your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, property management, vacancies, maintenance, all of that stuff is significantly lower than what the rent will be of your tenant. So your tenant's moving in, he's paying $1,000, and then you realize, oh, wow, all of my expenses, and I'm buffering myself, creating some reserves and vacancy expenses down the road, it'll only coming out to like $750. That means that property right now is netting you in your pocket every single month $250. So how many of those are you going to need if you want to retire? Like, let's say you're like, okay, I can comfortably retire and maybe make some more money off of side projects if I have like $4,000 to $5,000. Well, congratulations. If you need, if every property brings you $250 and you need $4,000, you do the math, right? That you just need, 16 properties. Sounds ridiculous, but it's really not that difficult. You keep getting those, and that cash flow that they're making you just roll it right in and get another one. We actually created a calculator that'll show you how to, like, hey, you get this amount of, you get one property every year, and this is how you save up for the next one. You use the first one to help you get the next one, and it just compounds. And the next thing you know, in like 10 years, while you're serving in the military, you're not doing anything crazy, you have these 16 properties. It's crazy. Like, you just have to plan. So what I'm saying is, you have these assets, right? Like, think of them as like these stock tickers. You bought like a share of Apple, you bought a share, but they're properties. So it's like 123 Main Street, right? In Memphis, Tennessee. And this thing is making you $250 every single month. So, and you have like another 10 of them or whatever, and they're all making you the same amount. You're feeling that every single month. Your lifestyle is better. You're secure in your finances. Oh, and by the way, they're actually potentially appreciating. Real estate in America since 1920s, after the Great Depression, has been appreciating average 3 to 5% every month or every year. But we're not even like, that's just cream on the top. We're not even looking at that. Plus, you have a person there paying off that good debt, right? That is eventually going to be paid off, and it's going to be yours. So all of a sudden, 16 properties, all of them worth like $200,000 down the road. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's gonna be like, you're going to be, if all those get paid off, you're going to have $3.2 million, like just on its own. You're not contributing to that anymore. People are paying off your debt, and you're going to have all of that. So I'm sorry. I know that was just a lot of word vomit there, but that's the beauty, is that you buy these assets. They're putting cash into your pocket every single month, and you can then use that to get more of those things. You're creating these little ATM machines, these little streams of income that are making you more and more and more financially free every single one you get. And that's kind of like the why behind what I do, and what our group at Active Duty Passive Income does, is we're all about generating legacy, generational wealth, but also for the purpose of financial freedom. Like, that's what we want. We want to be able to, whenever you do decide to get out of the military, maybe you're already out of the military, have enough income coming in every month to where you could be the coach of a football team, or like do projects in your, and not freak out about it. Like, not think, oh, I need to have, a standard 9 to 5 on the side. Maybe you don't, if you actually set yourself up. So yeah, that's the idea. Anything you want to unpack there? Sorry, that was a lot.
Yeah, it's some good information there, because what people need to really understand is, doing something is going to get you to that goal quicker. Just do something. Don't sit on the sidelines and say, I wish that. Wish is not a strategy. Hope is not a strategy. Doing something is a strategy. And that kind of leads into where I would be heading with one of my next questions is the importance of having a strategy for yourself, because excuse me, if you don't have a strategy, it's like the saying goes, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And that's the reality of it, is that you have to have some sort of a plan put in place. And the stuff that you, Markian, are talking about, or Markian, I'm sorry, is when you are doing the things that you're doing, there are also other things that you can do in the meantime that can set you up for working with the programs that you're doing. So where our listeners are getting some information here is, there's ways that they can juggle all of their moving pieces to be able to get into this world. And it's not something like, oh my gosh, I have to come up with all this money. That isn't always the case, because you have assets you can be leveraging.
Well, actually, that's a good point. So this might sound a little polarizing and crazy, but I actually liquidated my Roth IRA, and I bought up my first rental property that way, because in my mind, I would rather have cash flow, appreciation, tax benefits, all of this, and principal reduction, so growing my wealth. I'd rather have all of those things, and that sounds super technical. I'll get into it in a little bit. Rather than just like putting my money away and not being able to touch it until way, way, way down the road for me. And people are like, well, you're saving so much taxes when you're putting your money away into a Roth IRA or whatever. Well, true, but you also are very, very limited in what you do with that. What you can do, however, is you can make your IRA into a self-directed IRA and have that IRA buy rental properties. Sounds crazy, but it's totally doable. Some people love doing that, because then you don't pay any capital gains taxes, and you can just buy like that property. If it appreciates by doubles in value, you can then sell it within your IRA, get a different one, an even bigger one, all still in your IRA, and you didn't pay a penny of taxes. Well, guess what? That actually exists outside of the IRA. So if you're a little crazy like me and you're like, I'm just going to liquidate my IRA, I paid 10% penalty on my gains, but wasn't that much. Ended up, I contributed like $22,000 over like 6 or something years into my IRA, and it had gone up to 33 at that point. So I had to pay taxes on like $11,000 of it. After all said and done, like I ended up only paying like $1,000 in taxes. And I say only because all of a sudden I have $32,000 I wasn't able to touch at all now available to me for real estate investing. To buy a $100,000 property, for example, in the Midwest, all I need is 20 plus some closing costs. So now I have an asset, and I'm starting the ball